So thank you. Well, thanks for playing with us. And so you've seen the answers. You've seen the presentation from Anthony as well. So we only have a little time as always. So it's going to be, try to be pretty snappy. I want questions from the public as well, not just my questions. But last of all, Mark, you're sitting there. And I'm going to ask you as well. First is, out of the last few things that happened, the little quick pool and the presentation that we had from Anthony, where do you think we are? What is APIs? Are these new services we've never seen before? Are these potential to change or replace SMS?
Just want to check this is working. So great question. And I'd like to formally congratulate Anthony and Aduna, actually. I think the change that they've brought to the market, and APIs are not new, right? In the UK, we've been doing this stuff since 2011 with tier one banks. Okay, so it's not new. Some of us have got grey hair, some of us have lost hair in the process, but it's not new. But I think what we're now seeing is, to what Anthony was saying, is the industry actually coming together. And my time at the GSMA was something that, you know, all of us have been beating that drum, work together, collaborate, and actually it will shift the market. So yeah, for me, I think it's absolutely positive. There's a lot of banks, not just here in the US, but globally are using these services already. And I think next time it would be great to see those on stage, actually talking about the use cases, talking about how they're combating fraud and those sorts of things. And hopefully it will enable then the ecosystem to grow even faster. But yeah, for me, very, very positive, and looking forward to 2026, I think he said, when Aduna are going to see revenues. Hopefully it's before. I think everybody on stage here, especially Mijo and Mattias, we're already got revenues flowing, so we've proven that it already works. So come to the party and please take the mantle of chief cat herder. That's basically bringing the operators together.
Some of the operators are there. You're really actively through Aduna. We'll come back on the operator question as well. I think there's multiple stakeholders coming together. But so we got a market that already exists, but a market is going through some major catalyst, if you want, in the supply side. Probably one of the key questions before we go to the operators, it should be what we saw in the presentation as well. Where are we with the enterprises? Let's say the consumers, and some people would say even the developers are there. But the enterprises, we got Vonage, we got Infobip here. You are the one that are interfacing this world. In terms of API or demands for the services, where are we? Mijo, can you tell us from Infobip, what's your perspective on the demand side?
Thanks. Thanks, Mark, pointing me when you say like we lost hair. Yeah. Well, I think 3 things need to happen for this to succeed, and we were talking a lot about the product. Aduna for sure made a motion so far PR-wise, and we are also looking forward that it did move the needle in terms of like talking about this, putting carriers together. We need a product, so like Colin can talk about this one. Part of the product is not just features, standardization, regulatory, everything around this one. And then there's the brands. And all CPaaS players here, not just us, are between these brands and stuff, so we know what adoption means. And is a lot about go-to-market, but also product fit. So if you're trying to talk about one-to-one replacement, which we talk about loss and this authentication is super hot topic, and switching one-to-one, that's one ball game. And then it's more about like, you know, we can talk about customer experience, and this is nice, but there's also a lot about price. And if you exclude like regulatory, so far I have seen very little of regulators come and, you know, smash says, okay, now we are moving to network APIs. But then there's other types of demands where actually we as a CPaaS players try to complement our use cases with those use cases and not just be a broker. We have already one big broker, so if you implement this use case and complement it with some other ones and make a product better, this will create actually the demand. So we are also looking just behind this authentication. One simple example is just take those 4 or 5 authentication use cases like a SIM swap and silent mobile verification, you want to call it. We put in there the tenure, and then we blend it into one offer. And we came to the bank or whatever user, like insurance companies, and says, okay, we can give you how the blend of the view of the customer behind is 3-4 calls toward the network, toward the networks, and this brings the value for this one. And this type of ideas, like we have the shopping experience and many individual which will create like a much more calls toward the network. So far, it's either expensive or messy or breaking the customer flow. Now you can have this, shopping and verify user throughout the shopping experience and make sure, like really, like the guy who started it is really the one exiting this basket and stuff like this. So this will create new use cases, and I think we are currently, which is normal. It's kind of like old but new. Talk about technology and aggregating all these operators, putting them together as well. But now is the time really to go and talk to the market and see what flows. I think we can add to the table this kind of sanity check, like, technology can come up with some great use case and just it doesn't work for the brand, then brand is saying like either it's not usable or it's too expensive or too messy to implement. So I think there will be like a whole ecosystem that needs to contribute this one. Of course, we don't have any of the hyperscalers there. They're also important. So, we'll all have to kind of contribute to this to succeed. And in my opinion, it won't be a revolution, it will be evolution. It will be like every year, a little bit step ahead.
There's a long list you brought us here of things we have in our conversations with the enterprises out there to do. There is a use case development, there is integrations issues, and you mentioned themselves. There seems to be an education for their side. What is a use case? What do you do? And Colin, what else could you add in there? I mean, from Vonage as well.
Yeah, so I think it's really important when we talk about this to look at it from the point of view of the customer, right? So if you look about what made CPaaS successful, it wasn't that they needed SMS API or voice API. They needed connectivity to talk to their customers, right? Very few people care whether it's a short code or 10 DLC or toll free. They just have a use case, a need, and they want a method to do it. Most of them want to just sell their product or use their product. So it's the same thing for network APIs. Security makes sense. It's an enhancement on existing SMS, and they understand that it's a more secure product. So they try it out, they test it out, and then they're like, great, can I use it around the globe? The answer is no, right? Consistent global basis. That's where Aduna and others have come in. So we really want to make sure you look at it is, are you providing the connectivity to them in the way that is easy for them to consume, the way they understand, you don't overcomplicate it, and are you solving their problems? And that's really the way we need to look at it. Are we solving their problems, and are we making it easy for them to sign up? It's not 15 years ago anymore, and that's not anybody can just send an SMS or voice call anywhere around the world at scale, right? There's regulations, there's compliance. So we look at it from a point of view from Vonage with our network registry of what we call frictionless compliance, right? And we try to make it easy for our customers to sign up, get approval from all the carriers for the use cases that they're approved for, and then also provide a sandbox so their developers can start developing on it today and get the equivalent of real-world responses so they can see how their applications will interact. We think that's key to building the understanding of how this works for their customers so that they can focus on their actual products.
So there's certain elements of transparency now,
Yep.
of that will be able to actually have a direct visions of what's happening there. The more complex area as well. So we mentioned pricing, compliance, use cases. There's a lot of things. Let's pick one of those. Let's probably ask, but Mattias, from TMT, you seem to have some, well, obviously you all have direct experience, but talking to some of the end customers you do right now, what do you think we can sell to these? What else is today available that we can talk about? It's not just authentication, not just a
I mean, we're a UK-based company, and there are a few additional data points that are available that I think can be very, very useful in the US market. The first one is tenure. I think that's an excellent data point, especially how business.
Sorry, tenure, you said?
Tenure.
10.
So essentially, the ability to look up how long someone has been a customer of the carrier.
Oh.
I mean, the U.S., it's very difficult to build credit in the U.S. market, especially if you're, just entering into the adult world, etc. So tenure is very good because then you can basically gamble on a particular client. The bank would be able to say, well, it's been a customer of his current carrier for 3 years, so why not entrust him with a $200, $300, $400 credit card? And the other one, I think, is age verification. With an immediate age verification check. That I think will be demand-driven. I think it's going to really take off sometime in the middle of the year, where the market is heading towards fast and easy age verification checks outside of the KYC. It's quick and easy.
Sorry, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. There is a report, if you're looking, our ID and data working group has been working in trying to figure out all the consultations and regulatory activities around specifically minors age verification, which is now becoming a very big topic. I assume that is happening with social media here as well. And so that's a great opportunity for us and industry to work towards on that one as well. So exciting new use cases might be coming. So let's talk to Eddie. He's here. I expect some controversy from Eddie. I don't know if you do. I don't know. Should we just should we wind him up a bit? Should we warm him up? Because that's in the news recently. One of the carriers seems to have agreed on a potential payment.
Agreed.
And potentially, I don't know, for something that happened in the OTP side. And which, sorry?
So here's what
and then I made you SIM, we'll link to a SIM swap case and so on. Are we concerned about some of the overall security for fees, for Next, and so on? How is this an industry looking at this market now with API, are going to things getting even more complicated, or where are we?
Well, here's the problem. So, in the United States, so if everybody doesn't know this, we have FCC regulation 47.222D. That, go look it up. That basically says the mobile network operators can sell CP&I data to third parties for the protection of fraud and the protection of the network. So, they're completely covered. However, you still have to use it. So what happened, T-Mobile, is someone did a SIM swap, which happens hundreds of times a day, and they were sued, and they went through arbitration, and they lost. So not only did they lose $33 million in payout, but they had to pay $6.5 million in legal fees. So by that one, I'm trying to figure out who got fired for allowing that number to be released, but the challenge is it now opened up every carrier, not only in North America, but globally, to a massive liability. This is so bad for the mobile network operators, and I find it unfair, but this is so bad for the mobile network operators because T-Mobile does have a SIM swap solution. So they have a SIM swap solution, AT&T has a SIM swap solution, Verizon has a SIM swap solution. They all have it, they all offer it, it's available today. What's the challenge is you've got to get the bank. So even Coinbase, the biggest cryptocurrency bank, uses SMS to verify you. Now, they have silent authentication, T-Mobile has 28 available APIs for fraud use cases today. It's a multi-million-dollar business. I know that because my chief product officer doesn't want to go for it, right? So, with that being said, it's time right now for the FCC, the FTC, what they did in Singapore with shared responsibility, what they did in India, what they're doing all over the world. Get these transactions off OTP because this was a big, huge payout. I'm just waiting for that woman that was on Verizon and on Bank of America, by the way, who both offer SIM swap protection, who lost her entire life savings. I'm waiting for her to go to court because she's going to walk in and say, I couldn't pay my mortgage, I couldn't feed my kids, I couldn't do all this, and all of a sudden, the payout's going to be gigantic. So if you thought TCPA lawyers were enjoying life right now with someone sending a wrong text, the lawyers are lining up because SIM swap happens hundreds of times a day just in the United States. And here's the other thing. We still have 80 other operators that have nothing, which they will because we provide the authentication hub for the CCA, which all the smaller operators can connect into, and then expose all these APIs. So it has to happen. It's going to get worse. And now with the liability sitting directly on the carrier, that was the catalyst, I think, that we've been looking for in the industry, especially in North America, but that's going to resonate around the world. Because if the carriers are starting to be held liable for something somebody has done, they got to take the human out of the loop. I'm sorry, they got to take the human out of the loop, and any banking, financial transactions, and eventually you can add more use cases, everything needs to go through a SIM swap check first, before the transactions. No more OTP.
So you're saying that overall, there's good news in the overall regulatory framework, if you say you are allowed to do it. However, there's a lot of pressure.
There's no opt-in or opt-out. It just is. There's no opt-in or opt-out in the United States. It just is. We don't have to. They don't even have to put it on their website.
And the questions is, there's now additional security you might be able to use to protect yourself from any litigation as well. Okay.
So 3 SIM swaps, took $500 million in crypto in 1 hour. Think about that.
Well, challenging times, but
So, Eddie, so you're saying that all the liabilities on the carriers now. How do you then convince the enterprises to actually change their authentication and one-time password things? What's the answer there?
When you have built multi-billion-dollar networks and you want to get to those hundreds of millions of subscribers, no more OTP for financial transactions, period. And the carriers can say
It has to come from the carriers. So
it
let's be
has to
clear.
come from the carriers. If I had to just pay $40 billion, my next announcement would be, yes, T-Mobile no longer accepts OTP for financial transactions.
well,
Watch how quick they move.
we will have a carrier
Happen
for
real
us
quick.
them later. But sorry, Colin.
I'm not saying it'll happen real quick, but you need the carriers to support it.
Every carrier, other than the small guys in the United States, supports it. AT&T is a challenge because of that $120 million fine that they don't have to pay, but that's besides the fact. AT&T is a challenge because you have to go direct. But the other carriers, T-Mobile can go through an aggregator, Verizon you can go through an aggregator, you're connected. You know, you can go through these partners out there to get to expose those APIs.
I think one of the things we've all got to understand, though, is SIM swap as a service. I love it, right? We all do because we make some money from it. But there's social engineering fraud and there's internal fraud,
Yeah.
right? And the two things are not equal. So when you're socially engineered, as we know, the SIM swap is the last mile, if you want to call it that. But when the carrier's got an inherent internal fraud issue where an employee is being paid to do a SIM swap, if that service is there or not, it doesn't matter, right? You're not going to capture that particular fraud.
Well, I agree with you because I always say, there's a way to get the SIM swap. If I walk in with a stack of hundreds and I go, I'm Mark Harvey, the guy who's the person behind the counter.
They would say you're not good looking enough.
You know,
Here's the debate we want to see.
that's debatable. All right. But when you walk in with a stack of $100 bills, the person behind the counter making $20 an hour just got $100,000, and all of a sudden, you know, let's say you had a multi-million-dollar crypto account, I just stole it, and it only cost me $100,000, right? That person may get a slap on the wrist, but that's it. But if, let's say, Coinbase or Bank of America or whomever, when they would transaction, even if they